What's going on today, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Producer Hot Takes. I'm your host, Sick Beats. I'm sick. Today we'll be talking about your hot takes. Let's go. We got two contradicting opinions here. Pro Tools is only an industry standard because they keep putting it in their marketing. Every DAW on the market can outperform Pro Tools in one or more facets. And then we got another response saying, anyone who says Pro Tools is worthless has never worked with real live bands in a real multi-track recording studio. Just to clarify and expand on what I mean, I'm talking dozens of channels recording simultaneously through an analog desk with line returns for every channel back from PT to the desk, synths to headphone amps with different mixes for each band member, basically that you don't suffer from buffer underruns. Firstly, I think you guys should settle this in the arena. I'll link to the arena in the description. There's no arena. Now, Pro Tools definitely has its time and place. For most producers, though, that work at home, you probably don't need any of these things that were mentioned, especially if you're an electronic producer, because they typically do not work with a band. It's also great for post-production as well as mixing audio from a movie, but again, 99.9% of audio engineers and producers are not doing this. So that begs the question, what makes something standard? I don't know. What do you guys think? The SM7B is virtually indistinguishable from an SM57 or SM58 and is only popular because it is big. Now, I do agree with it being not too different sounding than an SM58, especially with some EQ and compression on it. If you get those balanced right, it could sound pretty similar. I actually saw a video showcasing this before. It's been put to the test already. I'm not sure if the SM57 sounds as similar. I'm sure you could get it sounding pretty similar if you wanted to, though. I'm not gonna lie, I still want the SM7B for the prestige, though. You look like a more successful producer and streamer with one, sadly, just because it's like industry standard, kind of like how people consider Pro Tools, I won't give into that with Pro Tools, but I will give into that with SM7B. I mean, tell me not. I look like an amateur with this thing. What is this thing even? It's an SM58. I have this on it, though, because my plosives are pretty intense. It is way better and more fun to emulate multi-effect plugins like RC20, Portal, Thermal, and of course the Grammy-winning Drip plugin. How could we forget about that one? With free plugins, you can find anywhere than to just browse a preset, one of the listed plugins to get a desired sound. You want to get a vintage vibe, add your own saturator, vinyl emulation, and flanger. It'll make your mix sound much better as you have more control. Now, better and more fun can definitely be subjective terms, in my opinion. It really depends on what you determine to be better or more fun. I personally like to just go through presets in this case, while I'm making music. I like to make things simple and get to what I'm going for as soon as possible. But this is also why I separate my sound design sessions and chain design sessions from me actually making music. When I'm making music, I like things to be as simple as possible. I know everyone may not work this way, but when I make music, I like to work this way because I want to get to the idea as fast as possible. The longer it takes for me to get to the idea, the more I lose inspiration. It's like a bar that's like filled up all the way, and the longer I'm working on a song, it goes, and my special bar is gone, and I don't care about the song anymore. But I definitely understand that people that produce bass music, dubstep, stuff like that, they definitely probably put a lot more thought into the effect chain or the sound design on the spot because that's a big part of like what you're going for with the sound. Mixing on headphones is the best option for 99% of bedroom producers, as long as you check in speakers as well, because without good acoustics, your speakers are not as high quality as headphones for the money. There's definitely a few things to say about this one. One, I find that you really hear detail a lot better in headphones, but you also need to be aware that the frequency response of headphones is pretty fucky. There's often a boost somewhere between 5 to 20k that's like 6 decibels on almost any set of headphones. I'm not sure why they're like that. It must have something to do with headphone design, though, because it's not just one brand of headphones that does that. They basically all do that. Monitors also present a more realistic stereo image, though, but you definitely hear the details a little bit less. I also think it's not very hard to get good acoustics in your room. Like, if you're in a small room, foam can actually do a pretty good job. If you have 5-inch speakers and a good amount of foam, I think it's a little bit harder to work with foam in a larger room, though, or with larger speakers. Definitely won't work with loudspeakers. Bitwig is an underrated DAW with so much potential. Now, I've only used Bitwig a handful of times. I'll try to give you guys my opinions as well as some objective comparisons with it here. But I do know there are quite a few successful producers using Bitwig, so that's point one for it. Point two is that it's cheaper than Ableton. It's very similar to Ableton, by the way. It's extremely modular. It supports Linux. It supports touch screens. Supposedly it has a smaller stock FX library. I'm not sure if that's true still. When I did use it, I do remember it being like that, though. If you guys know of any other reasons that Bitwig is great, let me know. Type beat producers are killing hip-hop. Hip-hop over the last 30 years has been built on authentic individuals. Now it's become let's copy and paste what's on rap caviar. Now I do agree that type beats do kind of suck the creativity out of beats a little bit because everything is a model of something else. That doesn't mean it's a one-to-one rip off of it though. It can be, don't get me wrong, but it's not always the case with that. It's also important to remember that not every producer is a type beat producer, and not every artist looks for type beats when they're looking for beats. Some artists have their own producers they specifically contact and ask them for certain types of things in the beats. Hopefully they're not asking for an X type beat or whatever. When I say X, whatever artist name. I do think you're sort of making a valid point here though. I definitely agree in certain ways, in certain aspects. I don't think it's killing the creativity, but it's definitely sucking a portion of the creativity out. Our next response says, less than 1% of people ever make a living from their music, yet 99% of music creators believe they can make a living off it. Math don't add up. First off, where are you getting these numbers from? I get the gist of what you're saying, but I think it's very, very subjective. How much money is enough to live off of? What are we calculating? Are we just calculating music streams? Are we calculating shows? Are we calculating sound design? Are we calculating movie scoring? Are we calculating content creation? There's also mixing and mastering, selling beats. I'm sure there's even more things. Where's the line drawn at? I think these numbers are pretty far off because I know quite a few people making a living off of music, and I don't think they fall within that 1% because I don't really know anyone that famous. But I know of people making a living off of YouTube with only 10 to 15,000 subscribers using Patreon or selling courses or selling sounds they made, affiliate links. There's a lot of ways to make money off of music. I know producers with less than 20,000 SoundCloud followers that are doing tours or they're getting booked for festivals, shows, and stuff like that. I know there's artists with millions of followers, and I would assume that these people with less than 20,000 followers don't fall within this 1%. So I assume the 1% it's not 1%. It's a lot bigger than that, in my opinion. Like maybe even like 10%. It's really hard to even judge though. We don't even know how many producers there are. But in my opinion, I feel like the number would probably be higher than that if I had to guess. Even if we were only talking about music streams. Free plugins are awesome, but also more expensive does not always equal better quality. There is so much amazing low budget software and hardware out there, even free sometimes. They can often go up against the big dogs easily. I agree, money does not equal quality. Because if that was the case, then Unison Audio would be top of the line. Vital is free, and it's equivalent to Serum in my opinion. I actually generally prefer Vital over Serum. I don't know, something about the workflow of it just feels more natural to me. Not sure why that is, but I don't know, it just works better for my workflow. There are definitely plugins that are worth paying for in my opinion though. I found it really hard to find a good guitar emulation when it comes to playing a guitar on a computer. A Contact library usually suffices for me for that. Maybe there is one out there that I don't know of though. But I will say this though, whenever I use my Contact guitars, people are always asking me if that's a real guitar. I will say that. Speaking of which, today's sponsor. No one wants to sponsor us. I did get reached out to someone representing like a pet odor company, like in order to like remove pet odors from your house. Is that something you guys would be interested in? No? People make music for different reasons. If your goal is to make money, great. That's going to take some time, effort, and luck. If your goal is to have fun, you can achieve that today. Don't be confused about what you want, and don't confuse others' goals for yours if they're not the same. If your main goal is to make money off of music, you might as well just go get a job because you're going to be working really hard to make money off of music versus like you can go get a job today and get paid for that either today if you get tips or something or whenever you get your paycheck. There was one case where I got paid for like a TV sync deal where I got like $100 for a bunch of songs. But other than that, I didn't make a dime off of music for like 4+ years. This is back in like 2010 to 2015 though, or 2014, whenever it was exactly. I did not make like any money off of music. I did hold out that maybe I would someday, but it wasn't the focus. I didn't really believe that you could make money off of it. For all the clowning and hate that Sausage Fattener gets, Data Life Endless Smile is actually an underrated plugin. This is true. I think Endless Smile is not a bad plugin. It definitely has a use, especially if you're trying to do like a quick build-up effect. I use it sometimes too, so I don't blame you for saying that. It's definitely a lot faster than automating some effects. For me personally though, sometimes I do like easy to use plugins, because especially if it'll save me time. So Autotune Infinite monthly subscription is a scam. I think almost all subscriptions are a scam. The only one I can think of that is not completely a scam is Plugin Alliance. They basically charge you monthly for all access to their plugins, and they give you 3, 5, or 12 plugins or something. I can't remember the exact numbers, but they give you plugins every year for being subscribed for a year. So basically you're paying off the plugins that you want. I believe you get to choose them as well too. So that adds actual value to being subscribed. The problem with most subscriptions is that you're paying for something and all you're getting is access to it. You're not getting anything to keep. Bear with me. Some of these are long here, guys. Feedback from other producers actually sucks. They focus on the wrong things most of the time, mixing when it's never the finished product. Asking for feedback from regular people is infinitely more valuable because they listen for things that the typical audience would actually care about. You make music for the regular Joe, not other producers. Of course, you can ask for this type of feedback from other producers, but in my experience, they get so riled up about how shit that snare sounds. I think they're right, that snare does sound like shit. But I do think you may be overgeneralizing your experiences you've had with producer feedback. Personally, I try to give actually useful feedback, whether it's composition or mix feedback. I try to just mention anything I can here. By the way, check me out on twitch.tv/WeaverBeats. I do think everyone has something different to offer in this regard though, because producers, artists, and people that just listen to music all have different opinions on music because they all hear it a little bit differently. But long story short, your snare sucks. Most beat makers, as opposed to other genre producers, appear to be pretty uneducated, impatient, and easily fooled into buying useless packs and plugins. Is there any 808 you couldn't make with Serum? A couple also keep constantly asking me either for tricks and or collab. Collab? Okay, so I'm gonna try to present a little bit of a theory here. I do get the gist of what you're saying. I do think it's because in order to make beats, you don't need to know as much about music production. All you need to do is be able to make some loops or use some loops or sample. It helps to like be able to make some melodies and stuff like that for your own completely original productions, but you can actually get by without doing much. I mean, you could get by in other types of production too, but it doesn't require as much thought about arrangement. Is there going to be vocals and stuff like that? Because you could just make a beat and be done with it, and it could just be loops. So I feel like the bar is a lot lower in terms of beat makers versus like I don't know, a dubstep producer. I feel like the bar is a lot higher. Like you have to do a lot more in order to make a finished dubstep song than you do to make a beat. Reaper is the best DAW ever made. What about the default plugin UI though? Reaper does have some great things going for it though, but I've used it a few times in the past. My biggest problem with it is just like, it's not that I need my stuff to look great, but when it's like not even, how do I put this? It fucking sucks. Personally, I think it doesn't really have the best default capabilities for beat making. It does have some great things going for it as far as an alternative to Pro Tools. One thing I do really like about it is the scripts. You can actually use the scripts in it in order to do like a alternative to Vocaline, which is not bad. I mean, it's not as good as Vocaline, but it's pretty close. Oh, another good thing about Reaper is I actually use it to send a signal from my DAW to OBS, and it does it a lot better than Voicemeeter does. So there are some really good things about Reaper. Still not using it though. Sorry. The plugin UI is just atrocious. A few of these got cut off in the Instagram replies, so not a hot take. I just don't think Ableton users are very smart like us FL users. All right, the war's back on. We're coming for you, Eric. Genre doesn't even matter. It's an arbitrary concept and only boils the track down to its, and I don't know what the rest of it says. I feel like it doesn't really matter if you're trying to make good music because good music will resonate with the people who do like it, regardless of genre. I do think the genre can help with quite a few things though. It could help with people finding other things they like that are similar. It could help with getting Spotify placements, because people place it in a playlist with the same genre. It also can help DJs too find similar tracks. Making funk in FL Studio gone wrong. Isn't that all funk? 0 successful music producers do tutorials unless you're like God or Frank Javc or Yeah Dubs. I didn't know God did tutorials. You're gonna have to send me that link. I mean, what is considered successful though? Because if 40,000 monthly listeners is considered successful, then sign me up. I don't consider that successful though. I don't think there's an objective determination of what is successful. If you're talking about placements though, Cody's done it. Simon Savita and Navi D have gotten a few as well too. I almost forgot about Decap. I'm sure there's many more than this, but those are the ones I could think of off the top of my head. But if you see my video in the past, quote unquote, music production YouTubers are frauds, then you'd remember I said this actually doesn't matter. I presented a few opinions that disagree with this take that you have to be successful in order to be a good music teacher. The joy comes from opening Ableton and the pain comes from after completing the first drop. Have you tried making the intro first? Because that is so much worse. Write your own music and overcome your inability to create something imaginative without sampling or using other people's music to get there. For the most part, I do agree with what you're saying, but I think you can still be creative with samples or loops as well too. You can also make your own samples and loops too. Does that fall under what you're talking about? I'm not sure. Using other people's material can definitely be a crutch though. and it's something I've been guilty of in the past. I still am sometimes. I think everyone makes music how they want to, though. I mean, if you're gonna be creative with your loops or samples, though, who's to tell you that's wrong? Unless you're straight up stealing. Studio One is the GOAT DAW. I won't lie, I've never used it once. There's too many DAWs. You do not need to be great at sound design, as in making your own presets, in order to consider yourself a great artist. Working with what you have already is more impressive, in my opinion. I think this is true for certain genres, especially making beats, trap beats, stuff like that. But if you do this with like bass music or dubstep and stuff like that, you'll get laughed out of the room. I do think overall composition matters a lot more than sound design. Nobody gives a rat's ass about how perfect your compression is, and only like 4 dudes who live in a studio in Miami can tell what the hell you did to the mix. While this is true for the most part, especially when it's very subtle, I do think if you overcompress the entire mix, some listeners may be able to tell, like, hey, something sounds bad about this. I don't know what it's called, but it sounds bad. I do get the general idea of what you're saying, though. Anyways, that's it for music producer hot takes. Make sure to send in more stuff the next time I do this. I post it on my YouTube community posts, as well as my Twitter and Instagram. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you want to stay updated on the next time I do this. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't. Trying to get to 20,000 by the end of the year. We're getting kind of close. We're almost to 18,000. So make sure to tell your friends. Maybe she could send in a hot take. Your mom, that is. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to like.
Bang Incorporated.